Well, actually, if you look at the past career of this new ambassador, he's been working as the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson and also the Director General of the Information Office of the Chinese Foreign Ministry, which means that at least a lot of people believes that he's very savvy in dealing with media and also knowing, what to talk about and how to get his voices heard by more Americans, by as many Americans as possible. Because these days, getting China's voices heard to Americans and getting things explained well to Americans is very important. A lot of Americans are fighting a China that they imagined, or a China that is like a few decades ago, not the real China that is what's going on now. And if you look at it, there are a lot of things for the two superpowers, China and the US, to really work together on instead of confronting each other. So all these things needs a lot of great communication between the Chinese and also Americans through all kinds of channels, including media like us, right? Also including the official levels, and that's probably one of the most important jobs this new Chinese ambassador to the U.S. is trying to deliver in order to avoid the serious miscalculations, strategic miscalculations between the two countries. I think this new ambassador actually laid out at least three blind spots in the American public opinion, which are firstly, whether America is a real democracy, and second, whether China is a real democracy, and then thirdly, whether China-US relations should be defined as a battle between a democracy versus a dictatorship. So these are, I think, the three interesting points he's making for the very first time to the American public. So let me talk about them one by one. First, is America a real democracy? Well, actually, if you look at what he said, democracy in Chinese is actually defined as people-run and people-owned. In Chinese, we call it 民主. So if you define it this way, it actually means whether you are delivering to people, both in the result and also in the process of decision-making. If that's the definition, then there's no way to answer why America has witnessed 600,000 people killed from COVID. Every day we see 3 people killed from police violence and also about over 100 people killed in the US from gun violence, and the list goes on. So in this way, it seems that it's not that you give it a fancy name of democracy and then you call America a democracy and say that China is not. So that's the idea is all about how you call it's not about how you call this country, but it's actually about how you run this country. So in this way, whether America is a real democracy, perhaps not, but it's a country that is aiming at building a real democracy. That's the first point that I think Ambassador Qin Gang is trying to imply and trying to get across to the American public. And secondly, is China a real democracy? Well, again, it's not a perfect one. And also, if you ask me to give a long list of the problems in China, I can talk for several hours, just giving you the titles of the problems. And that's also been admitted by Qin Gang. And then democracy in China is not really meant for comparison, but it's actually meant for actually delivering for people through the result and also through the process, and improve people's lives and also putting the people's welfare in the very center when the government is making decisions. So for China, it's also a goal, just like the United States, to really achieve a democracy that benefits everyone, and it's not really meant for comparison and definitely not meant for confrontation in the name of democracy versus dictatorship. So thirdly, my last point, is China-US relations a fight between democracy versus a dictatorship? I think what I said above has already answered this question, but I want to elaborate it a little bit more, because this ideological war that has been fanned up by some of the American politicians and media has actually made it more like a crusade style, modern day crusade style war, between the people of China and the US. That's really not good, because that gives people a false sense of, responsibility for actually fighting against China that they imagined. It's just a country that is solving its own problems. It's not a country that is trying to tear down democracy. It's a country that tries to build democracy in a common ideal of achieving this dream that all the mankind is trying to achieve. I think these are the 3 points that he has covered, and this ambassador is always trying to explain a lot of important issues to the American public and cover some of the blind spots in American public opinion.